So in chapters 8 and 9, we talked about the extremes of the poles, right? So if we think about market structures on a spectrum, over here we have perfectly competitive. Over here we have a monopoly. And we have a couple of distinctions in between. And where these are drawn is not representative or corresponding to any sort of how much they are, you know? So the fact that they're all equidistant apart doesn't mean that they're all perfectly equidistant separated in the spectrum, is what I'm trying to say. But the thing that's closest to monopoly is a situation called an oligopoly. An oligopoly where we have a few producers, right? Monopoly means one producer, monopoly, right? One producer. Oligopoly, oli is talking about a few. So one of the biggest oligopolies that I'm sure you all are familiar with is with video games, right? Xbox and PlayStation. And I guess the Nintendo Switch is there kind of a little bit, but pretty much it's Xbox and PlayStation. You know, same thing with soda, Coke and Pepsi. We also have some firms that we would call monopolistic competition.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is the final going to be on all of the chapters?
Yes. It will. I mean, the way to think about it is it's from chapter 8 onwards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was going to say, because chapter 8 and 9 were in the midterm.
Right, but we'll still be using chapter 8 and 9 concepts and stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I won't. That's a great question. I won't go back further than chapter 8 or 9, but chapter 8 or 9 is totally fair game for the midterm.
Oh, okay. I was just saying, I was like, we did chapter 8 and 9 in the midterm, so I didn't know if you were going from then on.
I just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page going forward, because I was unpleasantly surprised by the Kahoot yesterday in my macro class.
Oh.
Like there were 2 questions where everybody got every question wrong, and I was like, how did you all supposedly do so well on the midterm if none of you got both of these questions on the Kahoot? So instead of being despondent again by giving you guys a Kahoot that's on the midterm and potentially having you fall flat, I decided that I would do a little review at the beginning of class so that the Kahoot will be pretty much just stuff that we've covered today. So that's why I went back and covered those two topics. Yeah, good question.
Yeah, I just wrote it.
Yeah, no, good question. You're good. So monopolistic competition, this is a situation where we have many firms competing to sell similar but differentiated products. So monopolistic competition would probably be best represented by, you know, the clothing industry. Right? Certain brands are trying to pull for your attention and tell you that, you know, they are cooler, or they look better, or they feel better, or they wick moisture better, or they retain heat better, whatever the case may be, right? But, you know, it's pretty similar. Clothing is clothing. Some things are going to seem like monopolistic competition, but then when we really start to look into it, they're actually more oligopolies. So what's one, so there's 2 aisles in Walmart I'm thinking of right now. One of them is in the beauty department, and the other one is in the kind of home goods department. So these are both aisles where when you walk down them, you're like, oh my gosh, there's so many different brands. This must be a monopolistic competition situation. But then when you actually look at the brand, like when you look at who creates the products, if you look at the back, right? So the first one I'm thinking about is like the shampoo, the soap, like that aisle, right? Deodorant and stuff like that. Seems like there's a whole bunch of different brands. Well, if you flip them over and you read kind of the fine print next to the barcode on the back of that shampoo bottle or the back of that deodorant, you'll find that a lot of those different brands are owned and produced by one company or another company. You know, Procter and Gamble is one of the main ones, and Unilever is the other one. They have many, many, many different brands. You know, so the same people that are selling you Dove stuff are also selling you Old Spice and, you know, Axe body spray.
Is that like how like the name brand stuff and Equate is like Walmart's brand? It's just cheaper.
Well, so that's
Like
that's slightly different. You know what I mean? So that like, but yes, I mean, well,
because like they have like the name brand stuff
and then they have the Equate version, right?
Like,
Right.
it's supposed to be similar.
No, and it almost always is. You know what I mean? Like, and especially with pharmacological stuff, right? With medicines and things like that. You know what I mean? You can go and ascertain if it's the exact same chemicals and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Now, however,
Like that with the food too, right?
right. Now, however, even though it seems like it's similar, there's also been, you know, some situations where, you know, Walmart's factories or Safeway's factories or whatever, you know, like they weren't as safe, or they weren't as clean, or they weren't as exacting as they thought. And so sometimes the name brand just comes with a less of a risk. You know, especially something like eye drops or something like that, right? Where like the risk is like your eye could be infected and you could lose it. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it makes sense to go with the trusted brand. I mean, this is somebody that buys generic everything, so I'm just kind of musing out loud here. But we're really talking about.
Wait, so you buy generic everything?
Oh, I buy generic everything, 100%, 100%. Yeah.
Me too, I buy the food like.
Yep. Yeah, the bread, the $1.59 bread, 100%. Yeah, to me, bread is bread. I just toast it and put stuff on it anyways, right? But yeah, so but what particularly I was talking about, you know, oligopolies. So I was talking about like the fact that like we have Procter and Gamble, P&G, and we have companies that like Unilever, that they have multiple brands. So you might be thinking that it's a monopolistic competitive market just based on, you know, walking through the aisle or the advertisements that you get on the internet or whatever the case on your phone, right? But when you do a little bit of digging, you usually find that there's, you know, one of just a few companies that are making those beauty products, that are making those paper products, right? So on and so forth. So monopolistic competition is you know, something where we have many firms that are trying to differentiate what's going on. And then we kind of have a catch-all here where we have another category of imperfectly competitive. And to be honest, I don't see a good reason to differentiate between these two, so I'm going to lump these two together. So for the most part, I'm just going to use the term monopolistic competition, but you can, you know, in a sense, you can interchange these two. So when we talk about differentiated products, right, what are we talking about? We're talking about, you know, different aspects. So different ways that a product can be differentiated would be, so how can we do this? So we can alter physical aspects. Of the good. We can make the packaging more colorful or rainbow, or, you know what I mean? We can change the location from which it sells. Maybe we put it in gas stations in addition to grocery stores or something like that, right? Maybe we, you know, put it in a different part of the store. There's some intangible aspects, right? This is why, you know, celebrities make so much money with endorsements. You know, there's intangible perception that, you know, if I see this person wearing these goods, then, you know, if I wear those goods or do those services, then perhaps I will experience a life or a lifestyle like that person. So
that kind of something like you were talking about, all the weird celebrity stuff that sold for a lot, like Britney Spears' bubblegum.
yeah. Well, I mean, I'm kind of like, I mean, here I'm talking about like standardized products that they're differentiating by, so this could also be like brands, you know what I mean? Like just like the Supreme brand is kind of an intangible aspect, right? You know what I mean? Like of a monopolistically competitive product. So more just like general mass produced kind of things. And then lastly, perceptions, right? Which is the whole reason why advertising and marketing is a multi-billion-dollar market.